Only two things are certain in this life: death and taxes. But what you might not know is that the former can be just as lucrative as the latter. It might surprise you to know that not only is the funeral business booming, but people are just dying to get involved. So, today we're exhuming the morbid truth about working as a mortician. But before we bury you in facts, why not hit that subscribe button? Then head down to the comments and let us know what other historical professions you would like to hear about next. For now, let's not be late for our own funeral. Mortuaries are mainly in charge of ensuring your corpse doesn't look like something out of Night of the Living Dead. To accomplish this, morticians will apply makeup to the visible parts of the skin to make the dead look a bit less sallow. So, after the embalmer is done relieving the cadaver of all its corporeal fluids, yuck, it's time for the beauty section of the process. But we're not talking about Rihanna's Fenty line of makeup products. Like a custom t-shirt on Boardwalk, the preferred tool for the makeup artist of the dead is an airbrush. Putting makeup on a dead body isn't quite the same as living skin. Regular cosmetics don't work as well on the firm, rigid body's skin. So an airbrush is a quick, streak-free alternative to provide complete coverage. Though, Rihanna, if you are watching, 4 words: Fenty for the dead. We'll wait for our check in the mail. If it wasn't for Abraham Lincoln, the U.S. would have really gone south. A few days after the Civil War officially ended, President Lincoln attended the theater. And one Sic Semper Tyrannis later, he was pushing up presidential daisies. In order to be buried in his home state of Illinois, Lincoln's body needed to stay as fresh as possible for the 800-mile trip from Washington, D.C. Thus, embalming was essential. Now, before the president's extremely public passing, many viewed embalming as a violation of the body. But when Lincoln's was able to stay preserved for the entirety of the funeral tour, the public perception changed drastically. Newspapers even wrote about the miraculous embalming of the late president, helping make embalming the popular practice it is today. In an Ask a Mortician Reddit thread, one funeral worker admitted that he accidentally ripped off a dead guy's mustache. Lovely, he declared, "This isn't Mr. Jenkins, it's his evil twin Roy," before realizing his mistake. In reality, the body had an inhibitor tube still taped to his face. When the tape came off, so did most of the mustache. And the only way to literally save face was to shave the whole upper lip and find a pack of fake mustaches. The one that most closely resembled the missing mustache still looked ridiculous. But the widow was pleased and the funeral went off without a hitch. That's all well and good, but on a long enough timeline, some alien scientist is going to find a human skeleton buried with a fake mustache. And that is going to create a lot of whimsically incorrect assumptions about life on Earth. When most of the new people you meet are deceased, it can be tough to find romantic partners. And even if morticians do snag a first date, once the question of, "So what do you do?" comes up, the atmosphere can become ghoulish. That's why in 2014, entrepreneur Carla Valentine created Dead Meat, a cleverly named dating and social networking site for professionals who specialize in the danse macabre. Gravediggers, embalmers, funeral home workers, and medical historians could finally connect over their lifelong love affair with death. At its peak, the site boasted 5,000 members. But in 2019, like most things in that line of work, the site shuffled loose this mortal coil. Wonder if they had a funeral for it. High occupancy vehicle lanes, or carpool lanes, are sections of the highway designated for vehicles carrying 2 or more people. And to borrow a strategy from Air Bud, nowhere in the law does it say that those people need to be living, though hopefully the driver is. However, despite technically containing 2 people, a hearse with a driver and a coffin containing a corpse cannot use the HOV lane. The reason behind this outrageous mockery of justice is that Highway Patrol considers the deceased person to be cargo and not a former human passenger. We used to be a proper country. Looking to turn cold, dead bodies into cold, hard cash? Then the embalming industry might be for you. We promise you won't get stiffed. According to current salary averages, the going price for a year's worth of refilled cadavers is around $48,000. Think of how many fast passes you could buy with that much scratch. If you're not into hoses and fluids, maybe you can make waves in other ways. Morticians, undertakers, and funeral directors earn a bit more, anywhere from $53,000 to $74,000 a year. One downside, the clientele rarely gives you tips because of, well, the whole "they're no longer alive" thing. As for the cost of a funeral from the other side of the coffin, according to the National Funeral Directors Association, which sounds like it would have an office in Dracula's castle, a funeral with a viewing averages $7,360. But that only covers the services. You'll need somewhere to put the body after all the pomp and circumstance, with a vault going for about $1,400 more. With the added cost of a cemetery plot, headstone, flowers, and obituary placement, you're looking at a final cost of around $10,000. And when we say final cost, we mean it. If you're planning to cremate or just want to experience a little bit of death for yourself as a treat, you should know about casket rental services. In such a case, when a rental is needed, the body is placed inside a thick cardboard container inside the casket for the duration of the memorial service. After the funeral, the cardboard container is removed and the casket is ready for the next guest. No word on if you can Airbnb one for the week. We know what you're thinking. The deceased person business just isn't sexy enough to hold your interests. That's why we're happy to introduce you to Ken McKenzie. McKenzie, a death industry merchant with a sense of humor, loves spending time educating people about death in an attempt to demystify it. He writes books on the subject and funds many projects to benefit charities. One such project for breast cancer research is a Men of Mortuaries calendar, which features hunky hard bodies who love working with dead bodies. The beefcakes are depicted literally hanging out in cemeteries, in various stages of undress, easily putting the fun in funeral arrangement. Embalming isn't just important for keeping the body in a presentable shape. When a body dies and begins to decompose, certain areas are known to have heavier deposits of bacteria. These bacteria hotbeds will sometimes swell to twice their normal size if the fluids aren't drained quickly enough. Think Popeye the Sailor Man's arms. There is also the slight problem of, we're sorry in advance, leakage, which can usually be resolved by packing all the body's openings with cotton. Turns out cotton is the fabric of our lives and afterlives. Every job is prone to a rude question every now and then, and the funeral industry is no exception. Mortician Ken McKenzie, the guy with the hunky calendar, once had a client say, "I want you to remove his gold teeth because I know what you're gonna do with them." Obviously, the person was suggesting that McKenzie would steal the teeth, but we like to think they had something more specific in mind, like, "I want you to remove his gold teeth because I know you're just gonna melt them down and add them to your giant gold statue of Anubis, Lord of the Underworld." Either way, the process of removing teeth is best left to dental professionals. But McKenzie further explained that the one time a dentist did show up for a body that needed such a procedure, they couldn't get the teeth out of the mouth, but still wound up charging a cool $800 for the attempt. Apparently, not even the great beyond can keep you safe from dentists. Like some ghastly version of Mario Kart, it's become popular in certain pockets of the world to hold coffin races, which are exactly what they sound like. Back in the late 1800s, legend has it that a woman named Emma Crawford passed away from tuberculosis. Her partner promised to bury her on top of Red Mountain with some help from the townspeople. But then, in 1929, her coffin slid down the mountainside, scattering her bones every which way, like a parade float throwing prizes out into the crowd. Even though the town reburied her in nearby Crystal Park Cemetery, it probably missed a few dozen bones along the way, because her ghost allegedly still haunts the top of Red Mountain to this day. As an homage to the late Emma Crawford's famous trip down the mountain, more than 10,000 people meet each year to watch 70 teams push coffins 195 yards to the finish line. The event also includes a parade, as well as awards for Best Emma, Best Coffin, and Best Entourage. At the very least, this annual event probably helps quell the haunting rumors, because what ghost could still be mad after all that? When you work in the mortician biz, you see all sorts of heartbreaking things, all while working with bodily fluids and incredibly infectious diseases. And when you speak with grieving folks, it requires a certain level of empathy and adaptability. As a result, working in the industry can leave you stricken with compassion fatigue, which is sort of like the secondhand smoke of trauma, affecting you negatively because you're around traumatized people all day. It can exhaust even the strongest of wills. But working in a funeral parlor also gives one a unique perspective. Seasoned morticians have stated that they have grown to become comfortable with the idea of mortality, and it takes a lot of maturity to foster a healthy relationship with death. Oh, plus several years of working exclusively with deceased bodies, it pays to not fear the reaper. So what do you think? Would you ever consider a career in the mortuary arts? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out some of these other videos from our weird history.